Hello and welcome to Beyond the Finish Line, the podcast for runners of every pace, every distance and every goal. This is our marathon mini series and you are listening to episode 3. It's your guide from a half to full marathon, helping you to avoid the common mistakes along the way. We're breaking down marathon myths, training for your first marathon and advanced tips to help you improve your next race, whether or not that's your first or your fifth. Today's episode of our marathon mini-series is advanced marathon training. Whether you're chasing a sub 4, sub 3:30, a Boston qualifier, or just a smarter marathon PB, today we're talking all about that training and what changes that you need to make when you're training with a time goal. But first, how are you going, Coach Matt?
Mate, I am significantly better than last week, but I am still wrecked after a huge weekend at Western Sydney Ironman over the weekend. It was a big weekend, so I'm feeling it today. But it's good to be back. We were actually saying how weird it was not to record the pod last week, but it was needed. We needed a week off.
Yeah, look, Matt and I were together yesterday and we were just chatting about the fact that it's kind of the first time we've ever taken a random week off to be like, look, sorry guys, we can't record. But the episode you guys heard last week, episode 64, you could probably tell we were both quite unwell. And then after that, we both went downhill pretty quickly and didn't have time to then pre-record the episode before I went away. So we just decided it was best to give ourselves a bit of a break and we knew you guys wouldn't mind.
Honestly, the whole episode would have sounded like Georgia and I smoked a pack of cigarettes each. It was not going to be good.
I know. And I was like, we were both very unwell. I took a week off work after last Monday's episode. I couldn't go in for the rest of the week. And then, I went away after that and was still pretty sick for the first couple of days. And Matt was unwell pretty much the entire time. So we dodged one there.
Yeah. But we're back now.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Although we are both lacking a little bit of energy because yesterday took all of the energy out of us out at Penrith. We were spectating our athletes who were doing the 70.3 out there, which was super cool. My first ever Ironman event that I was spectating. Very interesting. Love that.
Mm-hmm. She's got the itch, guys. I can confirm. She was like, so what tri-suit do you think I should wear? I was like, yeah, she's got the itch. 2027, Georgia completes a half Ironman.
Look, we will see. The tri-suits did look amazing on our athletes, though. I have to say, seeing everyone together with them on was really, really cool. And they're so much easier to spot in a crowd, especially when you're seeing, a million black, tri-suits or black and yellow or then just black and pink. Yeah. And you're like, which one are they? But it's much easier when they're bright red with all of our branding on it. So super, super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Matt, highs and lows for the week. Obviously, you went well last week, but hit us with maybe something different.
Okay, something different. We did our quarterly meeting for TPP on Saturday. So we brought the whole team down Saturday evening before went to Western Sydney and did like a whole bunch of planning and a whole bunch of review, and it's wild how much the business has changed in the last 3 months. Then you think back to like 9 months ago when Georgia and I were like, all right, like let's make this a fucking thing and go for it. And it's like, Jesus Christ, it's changed so much. And we've gone from just Georgia Sam and I, excuse me, to we got a team of 6 now. It's soon to be a team of 8. Like we just hired 2 more people in the last week. Like it's just wild. So yeah. Just a huge 10, 12 weeks that we've just gone through with work, and it was cool just to see it like all on paper and what we're going to do in the next sort of 90 days. Like unreal. Like I love doing that stuff, and it was great to have the team together because we all obviously all live quite far apart, so we don't always get a chance to hang out. And then lows, honestly, I am just so ready for UTA to be over. I'm so fucking done with it. I know that's been the theme of this whole prep, but at the moment I don't even want to go and race. Like I'm just doing it because now it's too late to pull out, and I don't want to be a quitter. But like I don't even want to go and do it. Like that's where I'm at. Gosh. And
I just can't imagine going into a 100-kilometer race with that kind of mindset. That sucks.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
It's actually been very, very daunting because it's the first endurance event of any distance that I've been like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I've had ones where I'm impartial about, where I'm like, oh, I'll just go have fun. Like, I don't care about the result or whatever. But this is like, I generally don't want to get on the start line. So I have actually been like, and I'll keep you guys updated with this, but I am trying to work through different thought frameworks of like, how should I approach this race? And I'm yet to find it, and I'm obviously running out of time. But if I do find something that is just other than just I don't want to do it, I will let you know.
And so for the race, are you still hoping for a time goal, or are you just hoping to go out there and kind of execute it really well?
So it's more about execution.
Yeah.
Really, so if you guys go back and listen to my COSI recap, I was very unhappy with my performance.
Yeah.
But I actually just checked my UTMB score. So when you do a trail run that's like a qualifying race for UTMB, which is like the World Championships, you get a score based on the difficulty of the course, where you rank, all that sort of stuff. I actually scored top 20% in the world for that race.
Wow.
So, I mean, and I said it to Jimmy and Sam, like, you're the only one who thought it was a bad performance. Everyone else was like, thought it was sick. But, so,
classic.
Yeah, but, so I don't have a time goal for it. My goal is just to execute a race very well start to finish, but I feel like I have been too injured and too sick. The sickness is now just like kind of the final nail in the coffin to like really go out and do that. So my goal is still to go out and just race to the best of my ability. But what that looks like, I honestly have no idea. And I don't know if I'm going to, it's kind of scary. I don't know if I'm going to get to 60, 70, 80 Ks in and just go, it's too hard. I quit. Like, fuck it. Like, I don't care. Or if I'm just going to find something that I haven't found before and dig really deep and like get through it. Like, I don't know how it's going to play out. And that's a unique experience for me.
Yeah, that would be a very unique experience. Going in thinking I could possibly DNF this would be tough for you, I know. But yeah, I'm keen to hear how it all goes and get a bit of a race recap from you to see, whether or not it's what you were hoping or if it kind of turned out better than you expected. Because maybe you'll get out there and it'll be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm really interested because we've got Jimmy coming down to film me. We're doing like a doco on it.
Yeah.
And we have no idea how it's going to play out. Like normally, like we've filmed my sub 10 or George's sub 4 or Ant's Ironman's. Like we know they're going to finish, which like, are they going to get the time or hit the big goal? It's like, we don't even know like I could pull out 40 Ks in and then we got to make a video out of it. Like, I don't know. It's like, so yeah, we really don't know what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it'd be cool doco to, get stuck into. So I'm keen because look, I think Jimmy can make something out of nothing. That guy is very talented.
I don't give him an awful lot when it comes to filming. So.
But it'd be cool to see how it all goes and maybe, post race we'll get a nice little recap on the pod as well about, things.
Oh, we'll do a race recap for sure. Yeah. What about you, G? Highs and lows?
Highs, well, I was on my baby moon, which was amazing. I genuinely had the best week ever and haven't had such a great holiday since our honeymoon last year. Honeymoon was, kind of different because it was 4 weeks. We were overseas. It was a lot of we had the marathon. We were like traveling to new countries, doing all that stuff. Whereas this was like a proper holiday. We went to Noosa, which I have very fond memories of. I used to go when I was a child up until I was probably 10 years old. We used to go every year. And so I have very fond memories of Noosa. And so heading up there for the baby moon, it was just so nice to relax and just kind of really wind down. And yeah, we just spent every day going out to restaurants and going to the beach and swimming. And like we did a couple of runs, which was awesome. So genuinely just had the best time. So highly recommend a, holiday within Australia. Not many people, think about that anymore. Everyone's like, I got to go to Japan or I've got to go here or, it was, not cheap, but it's so much fun. So, really good. Want to go back every year now. That's how kind of good the holiday was.
Nice.
So yeah, that kind of made me feel really good. I'm excited to get back into doing some runs here. Getting back into my kind of what I was doing, my routine. And then, in terms of the weekend, had a really good time. We came home from Noosa. We went straight out to Western Sydney. As Matt just said, we did our quarterly meeting. And for those of you who've never been part of a meeting like that, as kind of Matt was talking about, it's where we kind of go over all the figures of the business, how things are going, projections for the future, what we think it's going to look like, how like kind of metrics we need to hit so that we can get to the goals we want. And it's also just such a fun brainstorming session on things we can do for the community. And, you know, we talked a bit about the podcast and, you know, what we can do for you guys who are listening. And yeah, it's really good. It's always really insightful. I love that. And yeah, the business has definitely completely changed since we had our last one 3 months ago.
It was so deflating, guys. Like I spent probably 2 weeks preparing this document for like start of the year. This is what the annual plan's going to be. This is what we're going to do. Georgia and Ant were like, and Sam were like, fuck yeah, this is sick. We're going to do it. I reckon 2 weeks after I wrote that document, it was irrelevant. It was just like, this doesn't we can't use this. It's gone. And then, yeah it's just changing so quickly.
That's business for you, I guess. It's just like
startup life.
Yeah, startup life. Everything changes so quickly. And, you know, even out at Ironman, like so many different things we were seeing happening out there and, you know, inspired to do things for our community with the podcast, our community with the performance project, and yeah, some cool things happening. Some exciting
cool
things.
overlaps as well. We had some great like brainstorming ideas of like how we can bring BTFL into TPP and vice versa. So yeah, so there's some cool stuff coming.
Some cool stuff coming. Yeah, some cool stuff for Sydney Marathon as well. I know a lot of our listeners are doing Sydney Marathon this year, so we're definitely going to get you guys involved in that, which is really exciting because that's my baby is all about the community and stuff. And while, you know, I might be a little bit MIA for a couple of months this year, it'll be good to get back into it over Sydney Marathon.
That's such a quick turnaround from you having the bub to Sydney Marathon.
I know. Well, you know, business doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. And I mean, thankfully, Sydney Marathon, like I can put the baby in the pram and Nick can come and we can have family help out. Like it's not a problem. It's super important to me that our athletes, as well as my friends who are running, as well as you guys who are listening to the podcast, you know, I want to come and support you guys because everyone has supported me so much. So big priority for me, but that's okay. And yeah, that's kind of it. Lows, no real lows besides that I was sick and stuff like that. My belly is getting very heavy when I run. I think I need to really start considering taping properly. So that's fun. Learn how to tape my stomach properly because last time I did it wrong and it didn't quite.
I didn't even know taping your stomach was a thing. Like taping your knee and like your foot and stuff, like strapping tape.
Like kinetic tape,
strapping tape.
Yeah. So the one that's kind of stretchy, you can actually cut it. Basically, what it does is you start it at the bottom of your belly and you like lift everything up.
So you're making like a sling for your stomach.
Yeah, kind of.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of just like
that makes sense.
Yeah, like holds everything up because the problem is like the weight, and I can really feel where the baby is now, which is kind of crazy, and because they kick so much and I know their patterns and I know exactly where they're kind of laying, and so when I run I can really feel them like pushing down on my stomach and my bladder. So it's like I'm getting very bad cramps across my right side where I think the baby mostly spends their time. And so I'm just going to try and tape it up and see if that helps. You can get belly bands, but it's like nobody really wants to wear a big fat elastic support band around their stomach when they're running. Like it's just so hot and yuck. So see how I go. But
there's definitely like a multi-billion-dollar business idea there.
What?
Like a better version of a belly band, like a running belt style running. Belly band.
Yeah. Something more comfortable for runners because belly bands are just so thick. But
if anyone wants to come up with that idea, I will invest. I just don't want to do it.
Just don't want to do it. Yeah, I can't do it either.
I don't have any bandwidth, but I will give you money to do it.
Pun intended. All right, cool. Well, that's kind of everything for the week that we've had. We may as well get stuck into this episode, guys, because we've been yapping away for 15 minutes.
It's our longest one in a while.
I'm sure you guys are really keen to get into today's episode. We had such good feedback from episodes 1 and 2. You know, episode 1 was all about those kind of myths, and then episode 2 was our beginner guide. And now this one is a lot about, you know, how to have a time goal. And that doesn't matter what that time goal is. Don't feel like it has to be a massive, massive, scary goal or, you know, something absolutely wild. It can also just be a goal for yourself. But we're going to teach you how to, you know, set up a realistic time goal as well as train for it. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. But I wanted to start and like kind of kick this off with a question for you, Matt. And
Mm-hmm.
I've written here, what's the biggest difference between training to finish a marathon versus training to race and get a PB?
Yeah, it's a huge question.
Sorry,
It's
massive start.
yeah, it's important, right? Like, I think a lot of people don't understand what that means, and like I say it to my athletes, and I will say it to them, and it might take them 3 or 4 races before like they really understand what it means to race a race, right? Like I've just I've entered the race, therefore I am racing, which is not they're not the same thing. Um, the biggest difference is the mental preparation because you need to stay focused from start to finish.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing in the world to do. And that is what separates like truly great endurance athletes and remove performance metrics from it. Like they could be a 7-hour marathon runner, or they could be a 159-hour marathon runner. Like regardless of where you are on the performance spectrum, if you do not stay focused from start to finish, you will not be able to race a race. Like you can't go in and out of focus. So preparing athletes to be focused for extended periods of time, even when they are hurting, even when like every part of their body and mind is telling them to like slow down, stop focusing, like it's trying to draw your attention away, like you need to stay dialed in. So I'd say that is the biggest difference.
Yeah, I agree. The difference like between the 4 marathons I did before my sub 4 block is so wild because even on the day you've got to be so focused, and mentally it just takes so much more out of you. And even like for Nick, when he was doing his sub 3:30 marathon, he just said, I never want to race a marathon again with a time goal that was that aggressive. He just said it just mentally just took so much out of him. So yeah, interesting. I fully agree with you though. I think that is, yeah, such a big difference that people probably don't actually realize when they are thinking about doing a time goal for a race.
Yeah, and I would only add to that. So if you feel like your goal is, if you feel like you do not have to focus for your goal, like you're not chasing a time goal, you're not racing, like you've just set a number, an arbitrary number, like that would be like my only caveat to that. Because some people would be like, oh, I set this time goal and I beat it by 20 minutes. I'm like, you probably would have beat it by 20 minutes regardless. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you had have set a slightly more aggressive goal that was realistic, you probably would have done a lot better because you would have been more focused. So
Exactly.
yeah. And like even with coaching and stuff, do you find that your clients will come to you with maybe the same kind of thing, right? Where their goal isn't aggressive enough, or on the opposite end, and this is what we talk about a lot on the podcast, is where the goal is too aggressive and you're like, I think you need to reevaluate your time frame on that.
Yeah, it does. I would say it happens more like people are probably more out of touch with their rate of improvement. So they're like, let's say I ran a 4-hour marathon and they're like, my next one I want to run 3:30. You're like, and the next one might be 6 months away. You're like, fuck, like that's tough. Like,
Yeah.
so I get that a lot. And sometimes we need to chunk that down and be like, we can get to 3:30, but like you got to give me 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah.
Like that's the time frame. And most athletes are cool with that. It does get difficult when an athlete just comes out of the blue and they're like, I want to qualify for Boston. I'm like, all right, like what's your previous PB? And they're like, never run a marathon before. You're like, right, tough. So yeah, like it does happen. I feel like with TPP, so many of our athletes are beyond the finish line listeners. At least now they are, like a huge proportion of them, or they have started listening to Beyond the Finish Line since becoming athletes. Because obviously Georgia and I like promote it internally. They understand how I think, and they understand like they get this almost acts as a secondary form of coaching, and they'll listen to an episode and go, Matt, you said this in this episode. I actually want to reevaluate this goal, and like they'll do it. So it is becoming less and less, which is fantastic because that means like the message is clear and it is working, but it still happens, obviously.
Yeah. A lot of people, you know, as we've spoken in the past, like a lot of people will also see stuff online where they think that that's the next, or that's the goal they have to have, you know. A goal can also just be like, say for my next marathon, it might just be that I want to beat like 3:55, or I want to do, you know, because like obviously sub 4 was like quite hard for me. And then coming back postpartum, trying to then achieve that again, plus a slightly more, aggressive goal. Like it doesn't always have to be sub 4, then sub 3:30. Like you can pick, increments. So
yeah, I would say people are, and this is probably a bit of social media and a bit of just run culture at the moment. I really noticed this because I was hanging out a lot at the finish line at Ironman. Obviously, Ironman or triathlon is my sport, right? I'm even wearing an Ironman shirt as we speak. I noticed a lot of people were like, did you get sub, and they would just insert random number. Like, did you get sub 712? And I was like, what? Like, and I've noticed this in run culture quite a bit where they're just like, they just put sub in front of something and all of a sudden people treat that like it's like a milestone or a checkpoint.
Yeah.
And I get like sub 4 and I get sub 3. Like obviously those two make sense. I would argue sub 3:30 is like not a checkpoint. I'd be like,
interesting.
I was like,
I hear a lot of people say that I think
it's popular because it's halfway between 4 and 3.
Yeah.
Right. But like I would argue it's like it doesn't actually sit in any relevance. Like it's just the next, like if you're trying to get better, it's just the next point. But people have just done it because as running has become more popular, a mass amount of people can run 5-minute kilometers. So it has gained it through that. But I would like,
okay,
where does it sit in the actual hierarchy? Like not important. Like you don't see professional marathon runners being like, I'm a sub 222 marathon runner. They're like, no, I'm sub 220 because that is the checkpoint.
Right.
And then it's sub 230, and then it's sub 245, and then it's 250, and then it's 3. Like that's where it sits in the elite ranks.
So why though do the elites have sub things like that, but then just regular everyday runners don't have that, sub 345 and like sub 330?
Because I would argue the difference between 220 and 240 is the difference between 3 and 4 hours, just because like the time.
Okay.
Like that margin for error and everything. To go from 240 to 220, that might take you 10 years of training.
Yeah.
Whereas like to go from 4 to 3, I mean, it might take some people 10 years of training. It also might take 3 years of training. Like, the slower the marathon time is, the bigger like the checkpoint should be because it is still the same amount of training as you get. Like the time gets smaller as you get faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because it's only, it's... the margin is quite, it is narrower because it's a lot harder to shave off.
For sure. To get 5% better at 240 is the same as getting 5% better at 4 hours, yeah.
Well, like, look at the guy who just ran sub 2 hours at London Marathon, Sebastian Sawe.
Yep.
I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but, like...
I'm sure he's an avid listener. He'll be very upset.
No, just all the other people who are like, this is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, fucking hell. Don't bother, guys. We won't read it.
Yeah. I guess like that was like his last time was 202, I think, or 201 something.
Something like that, yeah.
It's only like 3 minutes difference, but it's not even. It's 2 minutes, I think it was. But it's such a massive
It's years
difference.
of training.
Yeah, that is just insane. So
hot take, I reckon we'll see 4 to 10 people break 2 hours in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I feel like now that it's been done properly, I do think it's...
it's Roger Bannister all over again.
Yeah, well, we had 2 break it at London, and then it's like... And then after that, it was still... Someone else broke the last record again, like before that. So it is
This happens all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Every world record that falls, like you'll just then see people just roll through it.
Yeah, which is just crazy. And Adidas had two people in the top, wearing their shoes, which is crazy. Number 1 and number 2, both wearing
Gonna
Adidas.
get myself a pair.
Although I've heard they're going to retail for like $750.
Don't even care.
You're like, I need them.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear them once and then put them in a box.
Yep, exactly that. When I beat Georgia, I'm going to write, I beat Georgia on them.
Oh, yeah. We'll see. Well, guys, we have Gold Coast Marathon for Matt to beat my sub 4 and become the fastest.
I thought it was Busso.
I know. Isn't your next marathon?
Yeah, but number 1, not training for it. Number 2,
there's no excuses here.
hold on. I'm not making. I'm going to say in a marathon, it's probably not a fair race. We just go head to head in a marathon.
Oh yes, we did say this. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm handicapping myself to make it fair for Georgia because like if I just go out and roll, I could probably roll out of bed and do a sub 4-hour marathon.
See, he says this, guys, but if you can roll out of bed to okay, hear me out. Mister, I can roll out of bed and do a sub 4.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, no training, roll out of bed. You can do training, but you need to do sub
I'll run
4.
I'll run under 4 at Gold Coast for sure.
Yeah, okay. Make it, prove it. Make it happen. I want to see this.
It's like 9 weeks away. I got to run 100 Ks before that. So fucking.
I don't care, man. Until you literally get that, I will believe you can roll out of bed and do a sub 4.
All right.
And then you can handicap yourself because, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean no handicaps here. Just beat me and then we'll talk.
Okay. You guys watch. I'll beat her and she'll be like, okay, no, now you have to do the Ironman beforehand.
Yeah. Then you really have to do it.
Oh, then I really have to do it right. Got it. Understand.
So how does someone choose a realistic time goal for themselves? Like, are they running off past times? Like, what's the go here? How does someone, go, this is what I want to do next?
This is probably the hardest question to answer because it is so athlete dependent, right? Like, do they have a history, or like we talk about all the time, like athletic history? Like, are they a lifelong athlete and they've just converted to endurance sports? Is this their 15th marathon, right? So like so many different things to consider. I do like to look at past marathons and like assess that and then make a prediction. If they do not have a past marathon, there are like there are like almost old wives' tales that you can use. So like double your half marathon, add half an hour. Like that's relatively accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a perfect law, but like it puts you in the ballpark.
Okay.
Like say Georgia, for example, if Georgia sub 4, like she would have to run a 1:45 half, but she can't run a 1:45 half. No. So like that doesn't apply to Georgia. But I have probably 40 athletes who it applies to down to the second, right? Wow. So like there is, to take that one for a grain of salt, but it'll put you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just like looking at past performances and trying to predicting it from there. At least then to give you a framework. The other ways you can do it are you do your 5K threshold test that we've spoke about many, many times, or 30-minute threshold test.
Yep.
Create your training zones, and wherever your zone 3 is, let's just say, make it super easy, your zone 3 predicted pace is 5:40 to 5:30. Like, cool. 4-hour marathon sounds pretty on the money. And then all you got to do is build the endurance for that. That's a way you can do it. It's the most accurate at the start of a block. However, like you're probably going to leave some performance in the bank because as you get fitter, your zones will change. You could theoretically run a bit quicker as the block progresses. Mm-hmm. But like if you're that fit at the start of a block, like those numbers should just get easier and easier and easier. So you might not run to your full potential, but you will still progress. They're probably the main ways.
Yeah, I feel like people go, I can do a sub 2 half, and then they go, well, I'll automatically be able to do a sub 4 marathon. And it's like, okay, like you did a sub 2 half, how easy? Like, was that really easy? Did you have heaps left in the tank? Because you've then got to do that exact effort again.
Yeah.
Like, can you actually realistically run that exact same thing again? If you're like, no, I left it, everything in the tank was just dead, like out. Done it all. How are you going to do another, 21.1? So I do think people kind of use sub 2 as their benchmark and then just like, double it and they don't add that little bit extra. And
you got to add the half an hour.
Yeah, because it's like, you got to.
And I would say I would just add to that, I would say the better athlete you are, you can shrink that in 30 minutes, 25, 20, 15, or the more experience you have. But like, you'll never run, I shouldn't say never. The chances of you running a perfect neg split or even split across 42 is like not great. So,
well, especially like if that's your first marathon as well. Like if you've not experienced that up to 30K and hitting that wall and stuff like that, it's go back and obviously listen to our last episode 64, and like we talk about all of this. But I just think, it's very unrealistic to just be like, I'll just double it. Like, I'll just do it again. Because
it means that's a classic rookie mistake. for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely been times I've been running a marathon. I've gone, holy shit, I have to do, like, I get the halfway and I'm like, fuck, I have to do that again. Like,
Even when you got like the last 10Ks left, you're like, fuck, how am I going to run 10Ks?
yeah. And you're just like, God, I could really just like pull out right now. Just
Yeah,
do
yeah.
half marathon. It sounds great. So yeah, look, don't underestimate the difficulty past that halfway point. So, all right. So if we're training for a marathon PB, a goal time, what are some of the different types of workouts we should be focusing on when we start our training? How do we, what are the key workouts that need to be happening to get us on the way to our goal?
So I'm going to assume just for this that everyone's listened to our base building block and they've done 12 to 16 weeks of like solid base building. They're coming in relatively fit. From there, we are focusing on one really, really easy recovery run per week. And this doesn't change a great deal throughout the block, just the volume does. Before I get into this, you should know if you are a intensity-based athlete, a volume-based athlete, or a hybrid-based athlete. When I say hybrid, I do not mean like high rocks or any of that fucking shit. I mean, this comes down to what your body responds to. So do you respond to intensity? Do you respond to volume? Or do you respond to a combination of the two? A lot of people will say, oh, I'm a hybrid. But that's because they're lazy and they haven't done the actual testing within their training. And they just kind of chuck a little bit of everything at it and they go, oh, that feels relatively good. The chance of you being a proper hybrid is like pretty slim. That means you got to have type A and type B muscle fibers, so fast and slow twitch.
Okay, and so how does someone work out which one they fall into? If they automatically assume they're a hybrid, and you're kind of saying don't assume you're a hybrid, how does someone know where they fall? Because I don't even know where I would fall there.
Yeah, so George, you're definitely more of like a slow twitch athlete, so you're more of a volume-based athlete.
Yeah.
Honestly, this comes down to experience unless you want to go and get like professionally tested. Either like you just need to probably do a block where you do a lot of really, really hard running, really, really fast running, and you need to do a block where you do a lot of volume, and which one you respond better to, where there's less injuries, where you're feeling better, where energy's higher. The other thing is like just work with a coach, right? Like I've never tested Georgia once. I just know she's a slow twitch athlete.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense. I definitely, now that I kind of think about it and what you've just said, that definitely makes sense. Like anytime I've tried to like really push that aggressive, fast kind of stuff.
Yep. You get shin splints, you get calf issues. Yeah, exactly.
That's where I got all those issues with, my hip and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. And ironically, I said not many people are hybrids, but like Nick is a hybrid athlete where he does not have, he's a good athlete, but like he does not have that top end, super fast leg turnover. But like he can probably get down to, he's a 3:26 marathon runner. So like he has leg turnover. He just doesn't have sub 4 minute leg turnover, right? So different things where I would say I am closer to the intensity and specificity side of things where I can perform really, really high for really short periods of time. But as the endurance goes out, I take quite like a significant dip before I plateau. So just different makeups of athletes.
Yeah, definitely. Like, look, even Nick, like, as you said, he hasn't got that fast like turnover. But in saying that, he was a 100-meter sprinter. But when it actually then starts to come down to the endurance side of things, he loses that 100-meter like muscle memory. And that's where he then can't, at the moment, he can't really hold that pace that's required for, sub 3. Yeah.
So like that's where Nick sort of falls into that hybrid role where he can do it for a very, very short period of time, but he can't extend it out. Yeah. So he hit good numbers, but like it'll never convert to like true endurance. Like he's got to go the old-fashioned way and build it up.
Yeah.
So identifying that, either talking to your coach or just like running tests on yourself, like 4, 6, 8 week training blocks, especially during like a base building phase where maybe one you'd focus more on 5K, 10K. Others you might be focused on just like longer, slower, easy runs, seeing which one you feel fitter, feel better, have more energy. Like it's pretty evident once you run through like a few of them.
Okay. So we're doing that, easier session you mentioned. What else are we looking at for this block?
At the start of the block, we really are looking to top up like our VO2 and our threshold. So at the upper end of our of our training zones. So I like to do a VO2 session as my second run of the week, a threshold session as my third run of the week, and then we're keeping it still pretty aerobic on the long runs early in the training block. So probably 20 to 25 kilometers, just ticking the legs over, zone 2. We're not really doing anything. The reason we do it like that is because all of our intensity right there has come in the middle of the week. We've got a recovery run at the start of the week, which that might sound counterintuitive, but we would do it directly after a long run. So it's like it's recovering from the previous week.
Yeah.
And week 1, it kind of falls out of sync. Big aerobic run, so we're still topping up that zone 2. As we start to progress through a training block, I like to describe it like this. When intervals are very, very short, they're like VO2, so 5K, 3K sort of pacing. As the interval gets longer and longer, it's harder to run at that high end pace. So VO2 starts going down into threshold, so zone 5 down into zone 4. That might take 2 or 3 weeks, and then another 2 weeks where we're sitting at threshold. And as the threshold intervals get longer, what's zone 3, Georgia?
What do you mean, what's zone 3?
What's it called?
Fuck, I was like, he's going to ask me a question here. Marathon pace.
There we go.
Do you know, just as you asked that question, do you know where my brain went? Just before it, my brain was like, I bet you any money he's going to fucking ask me a question right now. And for the past 2 minutes, I've been looking at the next couple of points I've got to ask. Yeah, zone 3 is your marathon pace, guys. Jeez,
I would have also accepted tempo, but yeah. Yeah, so as the intervals get longer, you start working your way backwards through the zones. So zone 5, zone 4, zone 3. Once we hit zone 3, you're really not going to run any slower than that during those sort of midweek runs. Here we're really trying to hit one quality tempo session per week, where we're either sitting at marathon pace or just above marathon pace, maybe even into half marathon pace. For a more advanced athlete, we're probably still holding a threshold session in there as well. We're probably still doing like a solid, maybe like an unders and overs, where you might do like a K at marathon pace, a K at half marathon pace, and you do that for 8 or 9 Ks continuously, something like that. For athletes who maybe this is your first time-based goal, if we're hitting one quality tempo session per week, your second midweek run, I would alternate them. I would have 1 week where you're keeping that just aerobic 60 to 90 minutes, turning the legs over. The following week, I would hit it with that thresholdy type session where it's just faster than marathon pace. It doesn't need to be a huge demanding session, but it just needs to be enough where you're still touching zone 4 and maybe even a little bit of zone 5, just so that you're not ignoring those zones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got anything, Georgia? No?
I was just thinking, and I was just going over my head of all the sessions that I was doing in the past and kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, that makes sense why you programmed those things for me. And yeah, it's really interesting because I'm kind of seeing the back end of your brain and how you programmed all of my sessions prior. And yeah, I remember the under and over sessions. We didn't do them all the time, but you know, I remember those, and yeah, they do help.
Definitely. And at this point, we're starting to introduce what I like to call back ends to our long runs. So let's say you might do 25K long run, where it's 20Ks aerobic, 5Ks at marathon pace or slightly above marathon pace. And then you might go to like 2x5 or 2x3. And it's just starting to add a little bit of intensity to the back ends of run to start developing that conditioning in the legs.
At what point in the training block are we introducing that back end stuff? Because I know, you guys, you've always heard us talk about like the Big Daddy session and stuff like that. And there are other sessions that come prior to that. But at what point do your long runs go from being, that zone 2 to zone 3, where you're, kind of going easy to marathon pace, to then doing that plus marathon pace and above?
Yeah. Around week 4 or 5, like normally the first month is like we're really only trying to get our intensity in the midweek runs, and then start a week, end a week is relatively aerobic. as your legs start to condition to the volume, so those longer runs, 20, 25, 28 kilometers, we would generally go like, I'll just use a random set of numbers, 25K run, easy, 25K run with a very, very small back end. So it might be like 3K, the last 3Ks you got to kick. And then it might be 25Ks or 28Ks with a slightly bigger back end. So you want to give your body time to adapt. I think a lot of mistakes people make is they'd go 25, 27, 30, 33, 36, and they would just try and insert intensity wherever they could, where it's like, we want to go 25. Can you handle 25? Sweet. Let's make 25 a little bit harder. Did you handle that? Sweet. Now let's go to 28. 28 a little bit harder. Cool. Now do we go to 30 and make it harder again? Or do we go 28 but increase the intensity? So this is again where it comes down to if an athlete is more type A, more needed more that specificity and that intensity, we might go 28 with a 2x3 or a 2x5 or something like that, versus someone like Georgia where we'd be like, no, we're just going to go to 30 and just get that volume in our legs and just tick it over and just keep building that aerobic base. And we'll just bring her intensity up during the week.
Okay. And what would happen if someone was to introduce kind of like marathon pace a bit too early? Is that like a risk of burnout too quickly or?
Yeah, I mean, that's really like the biggest one is just burnout and injury. They're the two big risks. As long as you're not doing anything stupid, like going out and running like 20 Ks at marathon pace week one, like the risk is relatively low. Like if you're like week one, you've got a 20K run and you did 18 Ks plus a 2K back end or even a 5K back end, you'll 99% of the time you'll be fine, right? Like no real risk. We're a big proponent of minimal effective dose at TPP.
Yeah.
So if we can get you fitter running easy, we're going to do that. Like we're not going to force you to do something that we don't need to do. If we see you start to plateau, things start to not progress the way we want them to, things like, so we will obviously plan out your whole training block. We need to be here at week 4, 8, 12, 16. If we're not hitting those numbers, then we might need to introduce intensity or specificity a little bit earlier or increase volume. But overall, like the risk is relatively low as long as you are being somewhat safe about it. And again, they've done their 16-week base building block coming in relatively fit.
Yeah, I think even the mental side of it, you know, when you're doing that kind of back end specific stuff, it can get a lot in a block where you're doing a long run one week and you're like, oh fuck, the end of this long run. Like it's already hard enough to get out the door, let alone being like, oh my God, the end of this, I've got to do 5K really hard and I'm going to be exhausted. And then you kind of get in your head about it. So I think it is nice to split them up and have a week kind of quote unquote off, you know, from like you're having a long run, but it's a bit cruisy, you know, you can switch off a little bit. Mentally, you're not going, oh my God, in 3 more Ks, I'm going to have to start really pushing it. But on the other hand, like I have definitely experienced some of those long runs where you have back ends and the back ends have been fantastic and so much fun to end it. So yeah, I do agree that you do need to kind of split it up a little bit. Yeah,
for sure. And knowing too, like if an athlete's had 2 or 3 bad runs in a row, it's like, cool, I know we're meant to do back end this week, or I know we're meant to have this big run, but it's like, we're just not going to do that. We're going to pull that out. So I do think, I don't like telling people when and where they need coaches because I don't want it to come across as bias. We do this podcast to provide free coaching to anyone who wants to get into running. Like that's why we do it. I love it. Georgia loves it. That's why we do it. When we start talking about chasing time goals, that's when you really need to, if you do not have the knowledge or you're not willing to educate yourself on physiology, and like it's not super complex, but it's a time commitment. If you're not willing to make those commitments, this is the time where you need to start thinking like, all right, if I want to do this goal in the next 6 months, like I really need to think about a coach, whether that's me, whether that's someone else. You just increase your level of certainty of achieving the goal and start minimizing the downside. So take that with a grain of salt, guys. But like this is where I'd really consider getting professional help, even if it's one-on-one consulting and they're not writing your program for you, but just someone to talk to.
Yeah, because it can be hard to know, it's all well and good that you as a coach can look and go, okay, you've had 3 or 4 weeks where it's been really tough for you. And then we're going to pull this session and, we're going to drop it back a little bit. But if you're doing that on your own, it is tricky to know when to do that. And, that is what's so good about having someone there who can kind of take all that guesswork away for you, because the last thing you want is to keep having sessions that aren't going to plan, and then that's pushing you further and further away from your goal.
Yeah, and sometimes it just feels like this is one bad run, and then it's one bad run, and then it's one bad run, and it's like the old saying, like you're in the cruise ship and you turn at 1 degree, and like in 3 weeks you're facing the complete wrong direction. Like that happens. That happens with running, right? And like if you don't have someone there to identify it and fix it, and sort of nip it in the bud, and know when it is just a bad run or know when it's something more, you can ruin a whole block in 2 weeks of training. Like you can ruin 16 weeks of work, or you could sabotage the next 10 weeks of work or whatever it is. So I don't say that to scare people. I say that just to be aware and, do your due diligence with either your own education or your coach.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so what do you think is the minimum that people need to, like days that people need to train if they're going for a goal time? I know you've obviously mentioned key workouts that they should be doing. What's the minimum days? Like, we've spoken about this in the past when we had that listener ask about doing the marathon, and that was kind of just to complete a marathon. This is like, we're going for a goal here. How much effort are we really having to put in?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we just had, Ashley and Jason run Boston Marathon. Both ran sub 3 hours. Neither of them ran more than 4 times a week. In fact, they probably averaged like 3.5 runs a week, like if you averaged out the whole block. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's just again, like that's just specificity. So like both of those guys, we just knew how to train them, and by the end of it, that we say they did probably 3.5 runs a week. Like big weeks, they probably did 5 or 6. And then like there were weeks where they definitely did 2 or 3, plus some cycling, plus some strength training, things like that. But in terms of like pure running, probably 3.5 runs a week it worked out to be. And we just hit them with the right specificity, the right sessions at the right time, knew when to rest them when we had to rest them, knew when we had to push them when we had to push them. And they, both broke 3 in Boston. So, I know we spoke about the myths, like having to run every day and things like that, but it's just not the case. Like minimal effective dose is so important. And all of these people who are just average marathon runners who are running 6-7 days a week and 110 kilometer weeks because they think they need it to get better, you don't. And you're actually probably the prime candidates. Jason's a perfect example. I know he won't mind me talking about him right now and using him as the example. He was a 7-day-a-week runner, minimum 10Ks. Like that was just life. And I was like, cool, we're gonna strip it all out, and we're just gonna do 4 runs, 1 recovery run, 2 really, really high quality runs, and your long run we're gonna alternate between high quality and just volume. And he just got fitter and fitter and fitter so quickly because we gave him less, but gave it more specific. Again, that's like knowing that athlete, right? Jason was training as a type B athlete when he was a type A athlete, where Ash, for example, I actually made a mistake with Ash. I could have probably made Ash a little bit faster, where I treated Ash more as a hybrid athlete because she's a little bit younger and has phenomenal biomechanics, when Ash is like a pure type A athlete. And when we did our recap just the other week, like we really got into it and we're like, cool, like there's some things we're going to change in your next block for Sydney. So, like it's a lot less than what you think. Like the only reason those elite, and this goes back to our original point, right? The reason the elites train so much and you see them running 160 kilometers a week is because it's the same, that they've got to work so much harder to get 1% better versus what we have to do to get 1% better. So like they need to run 160 Ks a week to get 10 seconds faster in their marathon, where you might only have to run 60 Ks a week and you might get 10 minutes faster in your marathon. So there's that margin of error comes down and down and down.
So interesting. I know I was doing 4 runs a week for my marathon.
Yep. 4 is pretty stock standard. Like in terms of TPP, like there's very, very few athletes I feel they need to give more than 4 runs a week. Even at like Boston's probably the most elite athletes we would coach. And that's not because we're not capable of coaching better. It's just like, it's like our area of expertise is that like that age group athlete. Very rarely do you need more than 4 runs a week if they're programmed correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And look, just going back to that, where you're type A, type B. I'm more type B, and I know that now, because even for me, like to do a Boston qualifier, I know I need time, and I can't progress as fast as say someone like Ash, who is just like full type A. She is fast. She is built different. Like she is an absolutely phenomenal athlete, and she's younger. But for me, I would need like 3 to 5 years to be able to go,
for sure.
Okay, realistically, getting a Boston qualifier, I can't remember what the women's one is. I'd be taking 45 minutes at least off my time. So,
yeah, yours is probably like 3:20 to 3:10, somewhere in that window.
Yeah. So for me to do that, I know with how I'm built and how my body is, I know I'm capable of it, but I just have to be more realistic. And that's where you guys have to go back to what Matt was saying with either are you type A, type B, or hybrid. That's how you can kind of work out your goal a little bit better, is like, okay, have I progressed really, really quickly? Can I smash through these sessions and do more fast sessions? Great. Maybe you can bring your goal up a little bit more than someone like myself who knows, and I'm not delulu and thinking that realistically my body's not built for this, so I need to work longer to get to, the goals that I want. And that's fine.
For
Nothing
sure.
wrong
And
with that.
yeah, and people might hear that, Georgia, and think, oh, if I'm a type 2 athlete, like I'm just destined to like have slow progress. That's not the case. It's just you need to know how to train for that for that type of athlete. Like Georgia, for example, we took 45 minutes off Georgia's marathon in like 7 months, 9 months.
September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. 10 months, I think.
10 months, yeah. Yeah, so like when you know how to train an athlete, like you are not destined to... It does not mean your progress. If you're a slow twitch athlete, you do not get slow progress. It's just like you need to know how to train. So you just need to take into consideration the timeline for the goal. Like to take another 45 minutes off Georgia's marathon, like that's a huge undertaking, right? The first 45 minutes was easy. Now it's like it gets harder and harder and harder. So yeah, don't hear that and be discouraged. It's just reality of situation. As you get faster, it takes longer.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is like you get faster, it takes longer to get there. But also in saying that, I'm learning a lot more as I go along, and I'm just being more realistic with myself as my own goals, what I will want to do. And I know that that's my timeline. And so, you guys just need to be realistic with yourselves as well. And maybe, it's only 2 years for you, but it's not 6 months kind of thing. You're just more realistic.
Yeah.
Probably didn't make sense, but anyway.
No, we nailed it, mate. Nailed it.
All right. Cool. What are some kind of key things in our long runs that people should be hitting? I know we just spoke about, alternating between having some that are at that marathon pace. What are specific training things that people should be thinking about for their long runs that they need to hit to get their time goal?
Yeah, so obviously fueling, huge one, like practicing fueling and hydration. We've spoken about a million times. We don't need to really get into that on this, but like you can go back and listen to any episode where we talk about race day. From the night before, you start treating it like race day, dinner, bedtime, wake up time, breakfast, gear, the whole shebang, starting to hit your fueling all the way through. Same with post-workout, make sure you're recovering correctly. The next is like, make sure we're getting adequate time at marathon pace. So we talk about all the time, like building up to sort of 30 kilometers of marathon pace. You need to make sure you have adequate conditioning in your legs to be able to handle that. So that's why we do like 25 easy, 25 with back end, 28 easy, 28 with back end. Like it's very tedious, but like it just builds those blocks, puts those bricks in the wall. As once you probably hit 30, we start extending that out. So it might be 30 with back end, so call it back end 5Ks there. It might be 30 with 2x5 or 3x4, something like that. Then we might go to 33 with 2x7, 2x8, go to 36, might go to, or it might be 33, 2x10, and then we'd probably go 36 with 3x10, or 35 easy, 36, 3x10, something like that. in terms of pacing, we want to, some runs are going to be fantastic, feel like a hot knife through butter. Other runs, you are going to be within cooey of your running time. And that just is what it is. Like there were runs, Georgia had to run 5:40 per kilometer for her marathon pace. And there were runs where she ran 5:30. There were runs where she ran 6:10. And she would come to me and she'd be like, there's no way I can do this. I'm like, it's fine. Like we've got enough evidence. And go back and look at previous runs. But cool, you hit 5:40 here. Just because this one didn't go well, or just because these 3 or 4 over the block haven't gone well, doesn't mean anything. General rule of thumb, I like to be within about 10% of it. So obviously that's different for everyone. But like say, George, if anything was sort of further out than 5:50, 5:55 for Georgia, I'd really have a deep look at it. If she came to me and she ran 5:50, 5:55, I wouldn't even, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. Next. So yeah, that's like just like a general rule of thumb.
I just want to add one in there as well, just with, I agree completely, obviously, with everything you're saying. I just want to add with your long runs, and obviously you're training more of that pace stuff, really think about, and I wish I did this probably a little bit more seriously in my long runs for my last block, is thinking about, trying to emulate race day as much as you can. So for me, I was pretty slack in that I would stop and kind of catch my breath if I really needed it, or I would, if I was at a traffic light, I kind of just moseyed a little bit and had my gel and all that kind of stuff. Really practice with your long runs, having gels and having
intensity.
Water. Yep. Yeah. Having these things at intensity. And so, making sure you can actually consume a gel while running marathon pace, because consuming a gel at a very easy pace and for yourself, like whatever easy is for you, and consuming a gel at marathon pace are very different things. And so really trying to practice that you're timing your gel intake at the right time, obviously, but also maybe you're timing them for when you are doing more of that marathon pace, because for myself, I slacked a little bit there and I probably could have done a little bit better in really dialing in on that race day and what that kind of looks like. And that's, water, gels, what you're wearing, not stopping as often, all of those kinds of things.
Then this probably circles back to the original thing, the first question you asked me, Georgia, when we spoke about focus. And I believe we spoke about this in another episode, where it's not about being focused for those 4 hours you're on the racetrack. It's being focused for the 16 weeks leading in to the 4 hours on the racetrack. And I think I said it was the biggest at the start, and I stand by that, is the biggest difference between someone who runs a really, really good time goal and someone who doesn't is not only their ability to stay focused on race day, but stay focused through the block. So not letting one bad day dictate a week. Like how many times, and I think this is a great example for it, is like how many times if you're on a diet, do you have like, you have a cheat meal, or you have like, I'll just get that snack, and then you say, you know what, fuck it, the day's ruined, I'm going to start again tomorrow. People do that with their weeks in training. So like, Wednesday's run was fucking shit. Like I'm not even going to worry about it. Like just going to go park run Friday, and then I'm not going to train on the weekend. I'll start again on Monday. Like you see that all the time. Or they have 2 bad runs and like, I can't do it. Chuck toys out of the pram, carry on. Like, it's just, you just need to stay focused for 16 to 20 weeks and for that chunk of time on race day. And that's the hardest thing. So that's just echoing on, like, I completely agree with what George just said about dialing in and doing all the things during prep. But yeah, it just comes down to that focus for as long as you can hold on to it.
Yeah. And the focus in that 16 weeks, that, that comes down to like, that's your race day focus. That's where you build all of that, you're doing all of your endurance for the actual race where your legs can tick over and your body can handle it. But you need to practice the focus and the mental side. And, we spoke about that in that mental side of running podcast episode we did and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, really focusing on how I can just get that mindset. And for me, a lot of the focus came down to doing some runs without doing content. And it sounds really funny, but for me, I had to really focus myself to not get distracted. And on race day, I was getting distracted by people. Like I'm smiling and laughing and hi, hey, oh my God, like there's a follower or whatever. And that's where literally Matt, like you guys have probably seen the video where Matt was like, focus, Georgia. And I had to snap back in and be like, fuck, like I'm racing. And you have to practice that because it's actually not as easy as you'd think to really dial in and just train your brain to be like, all right, I'm focusing on moving my legs and doing all of the things I should be doing.
You got to block everything out, mate. You got to put the horse blinders on.
Yeah, you really do. So that's one for me, guys, that
That's one of my favorite videos because you get the shit scared out of you. You didn't even know I was there.
We were talking about that on the weekend because one of the athletes, Zoe, she was running through transition from bike to run, and she was pumped. Like, she was so excited. She was having a great time, and she's like, oh, like whatever she was saying. I can't even remember what she's saying because it was so fast.
I'm having so much fun.
And Matt was like, you need to focus.
And just so everyone knows, like, it's pretty obvious, like, my personality on here, but when people have goals, I am very like...
You take it very seriously.
Yeah, I take it very seriously. If Zoe was chasing a potential world champ spot, Georgia was chasing sub 4. If Zoe was like, I'm just doing my first half Ironman, if she came up to me being like, I'm having so much fun, I'm like, fuck yeah, you are. Go run this half marathon. So yeah, just so everyone knows, I am a psycho, but not all the time.
No, and you know what? Like, straight after the race, I was actually talking to Zoe about it, and we were laughing about how Matt had said to me in that marathon, Georgia, focus, because he knew how important this race was to me, and he knows me as a person to be like, I know she's going to get carried away and get too excited with the crowd, which I was doing. But Zoe said to me, she goes, I love how much, Matt pulls me back into focus, and she's like, I love that he does that kind of bad cop on race day because I need that. And she goes, that's why I want him as my coach and stuff like that. So loved that. Super handy. But yes, as I said, or as Matt was just saying, he's not like that all the time. He's doing it because he's really passionate.
No. And like, this is the message she sent afterwards. She goes, it goes without saying, but thank you so much for today. You were the calm out there for me and I needed that. So it's like, even if in the moment they're like, oh, fuck, like afterwards they're like, oh no, that was the right move.
Yeah, definitely. And look, Matt might be yelling at you, but that's calming because you're like, okay, I'm back. I'm straight back in this now.
Yeah, sometimes you need someone to pull you out of it. Like, that's why you got to be hard and aggressive. Because like, if I was like, hey, Georgia, would you mind just like focusing a little bit for like the next 10 minutes? Would that be okay? You'd be like, I'm going to go talk to everyone.
Hang off.
Yeah.
Well, even like when you were running with me, I think it was coming up to 28 Ks and I wasn't feeling well. And you literally like, no, okay, how's it feeling? How's this? Couple of questions. Yep, great. You're good. Keep going. And I was like, boom, straight back into focus. Felt fine after that. So sometimes it does take someone to really snap you back in. And whether that's your coach or your partner or whoever it might be, focus is such an important one. We've spoken heaps about fueling, guys. Go back to the last episode. It applies here the same. There's nothing new here we need to add. Fueling is all the same. Make sure you practice it. Make sure you're...
Yeah, if you're going for a time, you know how to fuel. Like,
yeah, exactly. You know this, and again, comes back to focus. Practice that. Focus on your fueling. Focus on when you need it. That's all that matters. And then kind of, I just wanted to, I guess, finish on some, because there's so many things we could get into with this, and it's kind of like, how long is a piece of string? We don't want to bore you guys. So I just wanted to kind of think any mistakes that people make when they're going for a PB, and how we can not make those mistakes and go and chase that that goal and get their time, and be proud of their efforts and how much work they've put in.
Yeah, the biggest one is like they don't do base building. Like, I will stand by that to the day I die. That, and base building can mean many, many different things depending on the athlete, but they don't. And again, going back to focus, like, they're not. It's different levels of focus, but you need to be focused in base building. You need to have an outcome in base building. You're not just running for the sake of running. Like, there is still a goal. You just have, I call it room for fuckery. So like, you can still miss a run. It's not the end of the world. We're not in this race block, but like, you still need to be focused on what you're trying to achieve, because it is setting the foundation for what's coming up later down the track. The second is, and I just spoke to an athlete about this morning. Shout out Belle. Hope you're listening. And I had to really kick Belle on the ass over this. She had, she's doing UTA 100, and she went out for a race on the weekend, and she was at max heart rate within the first 10 minutes, and she started throwing up like an hour later. And it was a trail run, really hilly, a lot of elevation in the Whitsunday, so like really high humidity. And she came to me at the end of the race, like messaged me and said, all this went wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I was 16 minutes slower than I was last year. And I was like, cool, let's look at the stats. And I was like, well, did you warm up? No. It was like, did you hit your max heart rate within 10 minutes? Like, were you looking at your watch? Were you watching that? And it's like, if you couldn't take any fuel for 4 hours and you're only 16 minutes slower, like, do you think that's a fair comparison? And I say all that to say this is like, most people when they race and they screw up their PB, they go out chasing a race. Like they don't let the race come to them. So they go out super hot and they just think, oh, this adrenaline kicks in. They haven't done their warm up and they just feel like this is effortless. And all of a sudden they're 8Ks in, 10Ks in, and they realize I fucked up and it starts to go away and they try and chase it and chase it and chase it. And it just implodes versus like sticking to a race plan. So that was a little story about race plan. Like, stick to your race plan. Let the race come to you. You would rather finish the race with an extra gear and be like, cool, the next 5Ks, I'm going to drop the hammer, or 1K, 2Ks, whatever it is, versus that 5K being, oh my God, like I might have to walk this, because that's where your time's going to blow out.
And I'm smiling and giggling because that sounds exactly like my Gold Coast Marathon. I did the exact same thing. I didn't follow the plan. So there you go. It happens to the best of us, but
I don't know an athlete that it doesn't happen to. Like, we've all gone out too hot. We've all blown up. We've all like tried to think we know better than the race plan. Like, it just happens, right? It's not a criticism. It's just reality. But like, that is a huge mistake people make.
Yeah.
And once that adrenaline kicks in, like if you're meant to be running 5:40s, like 5:30, 5:20, you're like, oh mate, you're tapered, you're fresh, you're full of fucking carbs. You're like, this is effortless. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, the light's leaving my eyes.
Oh dear, we're going to be Delulu here. Yeah, so true. So true. And I think, there's heaps of other stuff with, marathons and for if you're going for a time goal. But if you're going for a time goal, you know all the basic stuff with a marathon, like how you're going to pace it and all that kind of thing. You would have learnt by now how to do all these kinds of things in your past races. So I don't think there's too much more we can add to that.
Also, I will just add one more. Learning from past experiences. I think that's a huge mistake people don't do. Is like you just said, you should learn from your previous ones, but that you're assuming that they did. I'd say the biggest mistake people do is like they're convinced that they were right despite it going wrong. So like, no, I know I can run it. Like that'd be like you going to be like, no, I know I can run at 5:20 per kilometer. Like, no, you can't. And you just being like, I'm just going to do it no matter what, and going out and running Sydney like you did Gold Coast and getting the exact same result. So like,
not learning.
I see a lot of athletes just so stubborn and so hell-bent, like, I am going to do this the way I want to do it, and they just, definition of insanity, same result over and over again. Yeah,
look, maybe some homework for you guys is like, take your past races, write down all the things you did really well and like what happened, and then on a race that didn't go to plan, like what are the things? Break it down like Matt just said with Belle. Like, did you warm up? Did you practice this? Were you focused in prep? And think about all those things so that you do learn from your past mistakes, so that when you come to the race where you want to really give it everything you've got, you've ticked every box, you have made sure that you have covered all ground and you're not missing anything, so that you're not going to miss out on that goal on race day.
Yep, perfect.
Anything else, Matt?
No, mate, I'm all good.
Amazing. Well, next week, guys, we're going to do all of your questions. We got so many in the past couple of weeks that you guys have sent through for your marathon specific questions. Some of them are going to apply to things we've spoken about in the past 2 episodes, and that's completely fine. We're happy to refresh you guys, happy to make sure that everyone is covered and confident as well. So that is next week. That'll be episode 65, which will be our You asked and we answered all of your questions marathon edition. So if you've got any more questions, send those through to us. Other than that, this has been episode 65 of Beyond the Finish Line. Thank you so much for listening. Head over to Instagram and follow us at beyondthefinishline_pod. Head over to wherever you get your podcast, like, subscribe, download, leave us a review or a comment. And if you want to get coached by Coach Matt or Coach Anthony, or possibly one of our new coaches that we're bringing on board, head over to performanceproject.com.au, send us an email or a DM and we'll happily get back to you and we can send you some info because we would love to have you on board and you can join our wonderful community as well. Thanks so much for listening.
Is that a G? There was an awkward pause there.
Sorry. I forgot there was still more for me to say. Just a little bit of after dinner myth there for you guys. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.